Hi, my name is Tracy and I am a makeup artist in the Calgary area. I often get asked how to do wounds and lacerations, and I'm going to show you how to do one today. So the first thing I want to show you is some of the products that I use. Today I'm going to be using a silicone base. So what we have is a two-part silicone. The one I prefer is called 3rd Degree. They come in jars like this. They come in a variety of colors. This just happens to be what needs to be used up in my kit. So this is what we're using today. It's just a clear silicone. That's your base. That's what you're going to actually be making the wound out of. You're going to need a metal palette and a spatula. You could use wood, but I like the metal because it cleans nicely. You're going to need some baby wipes. You're going to need some brushes, so a collection of sort of older brushes and chip brushes, something like this that you can cut off the ends of to make a shorter brush for splattering is ideal. As well, you're going to want some sticks. I like these nail sticks to use to apply blood. You're going to want a collection of bloods. So I've got a liquid stage blood, I've got a thick blood, and I've got this blood gem here from Bleeding Arts. Fantastic. In addition to your bloods, you're going to want something to color your wound with. So I have 2 Illustrator palettes here. I have the Effects palette and the Skin palette. The Skin palette's great, so you can get that flesh tone over top of your clear silicone, and this has got all your blood colors in it. You're going to need some rubbing alcohol to activate your Illustrator palettes, and I guess that's kind of where we start. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you want to take some of your Part A. So keep in mind that you want to mix your silicone in a 1-to-1 ratio. So you just start with a glob, probably like that. I'm going to make a fairly large wound. And you put it on your palette. Make sure that in between your Part A and your Part B, you want to wipe off your spatula really well, because if you get any of your Part A into your Part B mixtures, they're going to start to cure. So you'll end up with a big glob of cured silicone in your jar, and that's not good for anybody. So you want to try and make sure that your globs are about even in size, so that's about even. It doesn't have to be exact, but the closer you are, the better. And then you just want to mix it up really well, really vigorously kind of mix it. So I'm just going to get this here to a nice consistency. With these silicones, they've been sitting in my kit for a while. That's why we're using them up. So they do take a little bit longer to cure. As a result, sometimes they can be a little bit annoying to work with, but if you get some nice fresh stuff for your first try, it should be pretty easy to get yourself a nice wound. So now I have to decide. So now I've got my silicone, it's all nice and mixed there. See, it's in a glob, a little bit stringy. Now what I'm going to do is you need to pick where you want to put it on your face. I think for me I'm going to do a side of the face one. And you just want to kind of pull it up on your palette knife here and smear it on where you want it. You want to make sure your edges are nice and smooth. Don't worry too much about the globbing. I want to try and keep your hair out of it. Not always easy. So once you've got it all smoothed down, sort of the way you want it, you can start taking it and putting in your scratch marks. Okay, so I've made 3 big scratch marks there, and you want to try and blend down your edge as much as possible, just to make sure you have a smooth, seamless transition. So I lied, I'm not making a small laceration, I'm making actually a rather large one. This would be perfect for somebody who's doing something with werewolves or zombies where they're getting eaten or scratched by something. So you see how you can really see that it's white on the skin there. So the next thing we're going to do once this sort of dries a little bit more, it's close, but see how it's still sticky? So you want to kind of wait until it's a little bit less sticky, and then you can start painting. Just want to clean off my hands and then get on with the skin tone. So you want to spray your rubbing alcohol into your palettes, and then you start with your brush and try and mix a color that's pretty close to your skin tone. So it's still a bit sticky. Like I said, this was pretty old silicone. That's why we're using it up today. So it will stay sticky for longer, but I'm just going to go over top of it. I'd recommend waiting until your silicone is totally dry before you move on to the next step, but I'm just going to rush it so that this video isn't a million hours long. So once you've kind of got a little bit of a base coat on, you can take one of those brushes that, like I said, you've kind of cut the end off of, and you can take some darker colors and start to speckle it onto your face. So if you're doing this on somebody else, I recommend at this point that you get them to close their eyes, because sometimes you do get a little bit of overspray of the rubbing alcohol, and 99% rubbing alcohol in your eyes is not going to make any of your friends happy. As a side note, it does have to be 99% rubbing alcohol for these Illustrator palettes. It will not work if you use 70%. They are only alcohol activated. So you do want to speckle it to kind of blend in those edges. You can speckle with a color that's lighter than your skin and with one that's darker than your skin. Both are good. So once you've got your skin tone kind of down the way you'd like it to be, in this case you can kind of, because it's a little bit shiny, I'm going to just put a little bit of powder on it. I'm going to make sure you blend in your powder really well, or else you're going to end up with something that's a little bit white. So I like to use a colorless or a neutral set powder, but sometimes they don't always show up as colorless as you'd like them to. You want to be careful not to put on too much powder, because now when you're putting on colors again, it can get a little bit cakey, but I do like to put it on before I start putting on the blood. So that's why I'm putting it on now, because the next step, so you see now it's not sticky anymore, and so now in all of these like little cuts we've got in there, we're going to start adding in our blood color. So we go to the other palette, and they do have a tone, it's called Blood Red, and I do like to use that, but I also like to use a little prime red and a little bit aged blood. Just kind of mix them all together and start putting them in your wounds. kind of fill in the area there. You can then take from this point, see, some nice big scratches in there. It's actually just a little bit hard to see this in the video, but see what I'm doing, but I think it's going okay. You just want to take that brush and just work it through those lines you've already made. You don't want to go too far outside, but don't worry if you do, because wounds are messy, right? So you can kind of get it everywhere if you need to get it everywhere. I also like to take just a little bit of black and put it right in the center of my wounds, just to sort of give that illusion of depth, right? So see that? Just a little bit of depth there. And then from there, I'm going to take that chip brush again, and I am going to splatter a little bit of the blood colors onto my face, just so it looks like it was a little bit more of a graphic engagement than just, you know, oh, here's some wounds. So you want to make sure you get it nice and close to your wound. So if you look here, you get a different spray pattern really close than if you're really far away. So for the blood, I like to do it really close, whereas for the skin tone, I like to have it a little bit further away. And again, make sure you close your eyes for this part. Alright, so now I've got some splatter there. It looks a little bit messier. And last but not least, we're going to add some blood. So for this, I'm going to use my stick here, and I'm going to use my blood jam. I'm going to take some of my blood jam out of my pot with my palette knife, put it onto my palette, and then go to town. So I really like the blood jam because it's basically like the perfect color to fill in a nice coagulated wound. It gives you a really nice effect. Get some blood. And I can make it really gross and gooey. Like you had a really bad day. There we are. Simple laceration. Only took about 10 minutes. So you can do that for yourself for Halloween. You can add some more if you want to. Bloody up your lip a little bit. Said pretend like you had a really bad day. So there we are. Simple 3-piece laceration out of silicone. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.